Hello, everybody. Welcome to the whole story. If this is your first time joining the show or listening, we got a little bit of a different format today. As you see, it's just me, myself up on the screen. Usually, my co host Alex is here with me to chat all things Grand Prix. But today, a little bit of emergency, so I am flying solo today, but that is fine. I am very excited to talk about the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix that is coming up this weekend, better known as Imola for short, the city which the race is held in. We have a lot to discuss before this weekend starts. This track has a lot of history with a break recently that we're going to discuss. We got some new qualifying format coming into play this week. A lot of new upgrades to discuss. A little bit of rumors that are circling the paddock that won't surprise some of you who are familiar with how Red Bull operates. So a lot to discuss, and we are going to jump right into it. So Imola has some pretty big history here. Last race being in 2006 on the calendar before rejoining as a one-off in 2020. So COVID did a lot of damage, but one thing it did was it shook up the F1 calendar. It brought some races to the schedule that were kind of scheduled to be one-off races that COVID allowed them to hold a race and then continue on going forward. I guess the FIA and Formula One was happy with how the weekend, Grand Prix weekend goes. So 2006 is the last race there before, like I said, they come back in 2020. Notable race is the 2005 Alonso versus Schumacher race. Alonso gets ahead, I believe, on some pit strategy and holds off a fast, hard-charging Schumacher. If you know anything about this circuit, it is very difficult to pass. It was difficult to pass back in 2005, 2006 when the cars were a little bit smaller and easier to follow behind. And as cars gotten bigger, throwing off more dirty air, it's even harder to follow behind. So this track is very tricky to pass. So the start of the race is super important. You've seen Max Verstappen get his elbows out, especially in 2021 on Lewis Hamilton in the first turn to try to get ahead, because there's only one DRS zone in this track, and that is down the front straightaway. Very difficult to pass. Basically, after the front straightaway, you're just following through the center of the track. The track has some amazing historic corner names, 19 corners in total, but the only place to pass is that front stretch. You're kind of follow the leader through the middle, and with the way this dirty air comes off the car in front, it's tough to follow within that second to be able to be close enough coming out of 18 down the front stretch to get a pass. So the start of the race is very important, and then pit strategy, undercuts, overcuts, will be very important as well. Like a broken record, we've been seeing a lot of one-stop races, medium to hards, hards to mediums. I bet you'll probably see something similar to that this weekend, but you never know. Cautions, different race strategies, things can happen. So the last three races that were here, like I said, we came back in 2020. Lewis Hamilton pretty much dominated. It was a dry race. Max Verstappen, I believe, was running second, had a tire explode, so that took him out of the race in 2020. 2021, we have a wet race. Max Verstappen gets the lead off the beginning, elbows out. Lewis Hamilton actually slides off the track, almost beaches the car, is able to back it out. Believe he was down to 7th place, and he actually comes back after literally stopping, having to go in reverse, stopping for a few minutes. He's able to put that car back up in second, which was what was able to, part of the things that Lewis not giving up is to keep that 2021 title fight so tight at the end of the year. Other big thing that happened that year was the Bottas Russell incident going down the front stretch. With the track still being wet, Russell kind of made what some say is an aggressive move. I think what was a little overshadowed was that a Williams car was passing a Mercedes, like straight up, no nonsense involved. So that was pretty strange to see. But that was the big crash that they got into. And then last year, 2022, Max Verstappen's your winner. We have another wet race. So that that makes it a little interesting, but it also takes off the DRS zone down the front stretch. Usually when the track is wet, the FIA will say no DRS zone. So the passing was pretty limited. They're assembled a little train. They threw the DRS back on at the end of the race, but it was too late. Most notable, Hamilton gets stuck behind Gasly a lot, and Verstappen laps Hamilton, which, 2021, we have the amazing title fight right up into the end. 2022, Red Bull comes out with this great car. Mercedes is very much struggling in the beginning of the year, and you see Max lapping Hamilton, which just took fans by absolute surprise. We go from a crazy title fight the year before to getting lapped. It's probably one of the lowest lows you can experience. Lewis Hamilton held it, took care of the situation like a champion. Verstappen actually handled that situation with a lot of class as well, but it was absolute crazy to see on the track. The podium last year was Max first, Perez second, and then Lando Norris. Don't forget that McLaren was running very well at the beginning of last year, finishes third. Schedule. If you're an East Coast guy, I always like to go over the schedule just to keep everyone involved. Friday, 7:30 a.m. This is all in Eastern time. 7:30 a.m. is practice 1. Friday, 11 a.m. is practice 2. Saturday, 6:30 a.m. is practice 3. With qualifying at 10 a.m. on Saturday. Race is on Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern time, early morning for us here on the East Coast. Big thing to talk about here is the qualifying change that a lot of drivers, they're not too happy with. Max Verstappen has spoken out against this. So new qualifying format. Format's the same, the 18, 15, and 12 for Q1, Q2, Q3. What they're changing, though, is I believe they're going to just hard tires in Q1, medium tires in Q2, and then soft tires in Q3. Their reason they're doing this is they're allocating tires from 13 down to 11 this week. The goal is if they do this next year, I think they'll save around roughly 40 tires, I believe, a weekend. And for 20 teams, I guess their goal is to save nearly 1,000 tires over the season. So Pirelli wouldn't have to ship those out. They wouldn't have to take care of them. And we're in this age where we're trying to reduce our carbon footprint. So that is the thinking behind this weekend. So they will start, instead of 13 sets of tires, they'll start with 11 sets of tires. Qualifying, Q1 is hard, Q2 is medium, Q3 is soft. I'm interested to see how this plays off with certain guys. I know my co-host Alex isn't here. He likes to stress about how the Mercedes takes them a while to get their tires heated up, especially the hards and the mediums. So them having to start with the hards on Q1, they'll really need to make sure that they get through to Q1 to get onto the softer mediums in Q2, and then for them to get on the softs in Q3. I think overall, your fast cars will still be fast. I don't think that the hard, medium, soft will really throw a lot of people for a loop. It's just tire allotment. Also, though, you never know. There's some genius at one of these teams thinking of some trick strategy when it comes to this format. So you never know. We could see something new. We could see like a team like Red Bull come out, put a banker of a lap in on their hards, feel comfortable, run 1-2 laps on their hard tire and call it a day. You may see a team go out at their hards, run a few laps, not like it, have to throw on maybe a new set of hards in Q1 to try to make it to Q2. Well, now they might have less hards for the race on Sunday. Essentially, you shouldn't need multiple new tires for the race on Sunday. You probably like I said, a hard medium would work. But there's always, when we get a new format, new things could happen. Like I said, goal is to, I guess, reduce the carbon footprint. Drivers aren't too happy. Those lap times are going to get, usually if you watch qualifying, lap times get faster from Q1 to Q2 to Q3. Lap times will now be extremely faster with them going from hard, medium to soft tires. So next week, maybe we'll take a look at the qualifying time, the fastest Q1 time to the fastest Q3 time to see the difference in that. I should say big. Big upgrades coming this weekend. We'll start most notably Mercedes. They noticed in Bahrain that their car with their different side pod idea that they tried all last year just wasn't going to be enough. They recognized that in the preseason testing, and I believe they said right from the testing that they kind of had a little bit of a backup plan, and Imola was going to be the place where they unveiled their new big package. They've held true to that. New upgrades coming this week. New bodywork, which is aka the side pods. New floor. New front suspension to hopefully help with the porpoising and some of that handling issues they've been having. That's basically a whole new car. Side pods, floor, and front suspension. These cars are so aero crazy right now. So aero on the side pods, the way the air flows underneath the car, and then their front suspension. They're essentially bringing a whole new car to the field. Some of the things they're saying is that they don't think this is going to make them seconds faster. They're thinking the upgrade will make the car more stable, more of a stable platform to build from. It's almost annoying how much they're coming out saying, we don't think it's going to make us that much faster. We don't think it's going to make us that much faster. It shouldn't give us that much. I think they're kind of sandbagging it, set the bar low, and if the car comes out really fast, it'll look great. If the car doesn't come out fast with these new changes, they won't look as bad because they've laid this groundwork that this is only the platform going forward. They're talking long-term. They're talking championships in the future. So that's what they're saying this new car, new upgrades will essentially be. It's still the W14, excuse me. It's not a new car, just new upgrades. I think it's a little bit almost annoying how much they're preaching that, but I get what they're doing from a business, from a team standpoint, trying to set the bar realistic just in case. Term that they're using for their car a lot is poisonous, and that's the problem, is they don't feel like they have a car that they can build from. They feel like the car they have, they don't understand it that well, and they can't extract that much out of it, obviously, or else they would have. So that's why they're bringing in all these new upgrades. The famous George Russell meme from Drive to Survive is him saying, wow, this thing looks fast, and then with the side pods different from everyone else, and then it's almost final last words, the car was not that fast. So we kind of knew this would be coming. Question comes that I've seen floating around the internet is, what happens if this doesn't work, if the upgrades don't bring them significant changes? They're expecting a platform, but what if it's so bad that they're kind of starting from the parking lot, they're not even starting on the track. So hopefully it doesn't bring them that far behind, but that is the upgrades that they're going. Other teams are going over on bringing upgrades, which we'll talk about in a second, but their upgrades are so big in their Mercedes that their upgrades are going to get all the attention. If you're going to watch any practice this week, I can already guarantee you that they will be all over that Mercedes car. They're allowed certain camera access at certain times, so they're going to be camera all in there. If you don't know, the camera's actually allowed to get in because they can't cover up their garage unless they're working on certain parts. So if you're new to the sport and be like, why don't they just cover up what they got going on so no one can see? They're actually not allowed to cover the garage until they're, I believe if they either, I forget the nitty gritty of it, but it's if side pods come off or if they get into certain part, then they can put up a screen. So cameras will be all on the front wings, all zooming into the front suspension. Side pods will get a pretty big look when they're on the track. Still shots can show a lot of that. And then any chance they get, I'm sure the camera will be zooming in on side body work. Maybe we'll even see a little aero flow paint from them. Their flow paint from the testing was not good. It's actually a meme about how well Red Bull's car, the paint is flowing all where kind of it's supposed to be along the side pod. And then the Mercedes paint is just kind of clumped in the middle. So maybe they'll redeem themselves, or they'll be scared they got roasted so bad with the first flow paint that they won't want to do that again. So that'll be interesting. Mercedes is kind of the car to keep an eye on this weekend because we already know Red Bull speed. I believe Max Verstappen has even come out and said that he's not worried so much about everyone else's upgrades because their car is what it is. And honestly, their car is probably a second a lap faster than everyone else's when they're not pushing super duper hard. So I imagine if these other teams gain a couple tenths, they still got a lot in the bag. So they're not that worried there. Other upgrades that we have coming, McLaren is bringing minor upgrades. They started and bringing some upgrades the past 2 weeks. Lando Norris was very realistic. Again, they're going to be small upgrades. They are going to be things that they can build off of. Lando felt like it was putting them in the right direction. Maybe if they get a better quality and get their strategy on track, we'll see a little bit more of what that car is capable than we did at Miami last week when they kind of started with that absurd soft strategy in the race, was pitting early, and I felt like they were on the back foot from there to begin with. Ferrari bought that new floor out last week. Me and Alex discussed it. Both drivers saying that the car was very unstable and hard to drive on the limit. You're going to get the most out of the car when you put it on the limit. The more comfortable you feel, kind of the more you can put it on the limit. When you get on the limit, though, and you don't have a lot of faith in the car, and you're getting snaps of oversteer, you're going to get accidents like what happened with Charles Leclerc in practice and in qualifying last week. So Ferrari's coming with that new floor that they had last week. So we'll see if they can upgrade on that. This track, it's got, I don't think it's as fast. I would say it's not as fast as Miami, and some of those turns are. So we'll see. Maybe with a little slower track, it could be a little bit better. But you can expect them to kind of improve on that new floor that they brought. I said a lot of drivers are saying small changes, and they're trying not to they're trying not to come out swinging with their changes. They're saying they're going to be small. Joe Guan Yu though said that the Alfa Romeo is going to be bringing upgrades of a couple tenths. So that's good. I believe some of their team said they don't really know where the car is struggling. It's tough when a car struggles in overall lap times and you can't pinpoint, okay, is it dropping an anchor down the straights? Does it handle like a turd through the corners? We got a fast car down the straights. We can't handle in the corner. Might need a little bit more downforce. Maybe we're handling good. We're slow as a slug. Maybe we need to change the the downforce on the straightaway. They're kind of just feeling like they're slow overall, but apparently they're bringing an upgrade that they feel like could bring a few tenths to their team. So that'll be cool to see. And then Aston Martin is bringing upgrades to this. I think that they feel like these upgrades are pretty big, which is exciting because they've been so competitive. So what does a little upgrade for them do? It could be maybe that better finish that Alonso's looking for, a streak of a lot of third place finishes and 1/4, I believe. So I'm sure he's itching not only to get on that top podium, but to get onto that second place step, inching him closer to the top. So an upgrade could propel them into some territory where they might make Red Bull sweat a little bit. I doubt it. But those are all possibilities, and those are the upgrades that are coming this weekend. A little bit of rumor and news that's going on. Danny Ricciardo was reportedly at AlphaTauri this week for a seat fitting. Red Bull does not fool around. AlphaTauri's Red Bull sister team. If driver lineup is not working good for the Red Bull A team or the Red Bull B team, they will make changes quick. And apparently they are not happy with the pace that Nick de Vries had been having. Came out with a stellar race last year at Monza. Put it in the points his first race. I think there was big expectations, but he is just not living up to those expectations. Part of the problem is that Yuki Tsunoda is out racing him every week. The AlphaTauri does not have the fastest car whatsoever. It's not going to be up front. But if it was competing a little bit more, if maybe Nick de Vries was a little bit closer to Yuki, they wouldn't feel like this problem is so tied to Nick. But apparently that Danny Rick was AlphaTauri for a seat fitting, with Dr. Helmut Marko saying that if there's not a pace increase from Nick by, I believe it's the Spanish Grand Prix, they might be pulling him, and Danny Rick might be making his return to Formula One in the Red Bull team that was Toro Rosso back in the day, where he started. So me and Alex always discuss where he's going to go when we look at, who has a contract for the year and where could this play out. And then Red Bull always gives us something to talk about and says, our driver's not getting it done. We're going to put someone in who we believe that can. And apparently Ricciardo has been impressing them on the sim enough that they believe that he'll be the guy to go back in that AlphaTauri. And maybe they need that veteran leadership to turn that program around a little bit more. It's not supposed to be the A team like Red Bull is, but I don't believe that it's supposed to be in the spot that where it is. And it's usually set for young drivers with decent equipment to kind of get them forward. But maybe they need that veteran in there to kind of give them that step closer to make those transitions better. So that's the big rumor of the week. That is not Fernando Alonso dating Taylor Swift memes, which are amazing and should never, ever end. And I felt like I was going to start singing "We Are Never Getting Back Together" from T Swift. She's sneaky like that. Her song lyrics will get in your head and they will mess you up. So what to expect from Imola this weekend? Red Bull to probably be fastest. Mercedes, all eyes on them with their upgrades, but we don't know what they're going to do. We have a track that you're not having a lot of passing on, one DRS zone down the main straight. We're going to see how well these cars can follow through the rest of the track. What also comes into play here, and this is interesting, Track is on the smaller side, so you're going to get lap cars. And if you're unfamiliar, when these leaders start lapping guys and they have to pull off to the side, their tires, one, lose temperature, which make it harder for grip on them. And then they usually get in the marbles, which is when the tire's thrown off rubber to the side of the track. They usually have to pull into those marbles to let the leader or the front runners by. So that, stuff like that, depending on when they catch and when they have to move over and if they're in a battle, lap traffic can make this race not interesting for the front, but it may make the battles a little bit more interesting. So that's something to look forward to. Sometimes I don't think we saw much lap traffic last week in Miami. Don't quote me on that, but traffic, it's part of racing, lapped cars, and it could always be something. So we're excited about this. First of all, I have my picks that I'll make on the show today. If Alex sends me his picks by the end of the week, we'll get them up. We have a great picks competition. If you don't know, we pick the top 5 drivers every week. We have a little scoring system. If you want to know more about that, next week we'll show it. We'll talk about it on the show. But I'm going to pick my top 5. And I started, like I said, last week. I'm really playing for the game. A couple weeks ago, I was making my picks to try to I was trying to will my drivers, the guys that I like, to the top, and it just wasn't working out. So I'm going to try to win this game and hope that I'm wrong, because I'll be okay if I'm losing this game if my guy like Lewis Hamilton starts winning races and I start losing. I'll be so happy. It'll be okay. So I'm going to make my picks. First place, I'm going to go with Max Verstappen. Winner the last 2 years, in his second place car the year before when his tire blew. So this dude knows how to get around this track. Proven time and time again winner. Red Bulls probably have this fastest car. So I'm going to go with the safe Max Verstappen pick, number 1. Make it a win 2 weeks in a row. Second, I'm going to go with Fernando Alonso here. Like I said, I think this track is very hard to pass. He has the history with Schumacher holding him off. If they bring an upgrade that gives him a little bit of speed, he could get in front of Checo, throw Checo's race off, get his elbows out, keep him behind. I just got a feeling that if Alonso gets into the position, maybe into second, that he might be able to get the elbows out. And I know that the Red Bull is so fast with the DRS, and this being, a straightaway with very little passing and the only place to pass. If anyone could get it done, it's probably a Red Bull car. But I'm going to say right on the flip side, if anyone can hold anyone off, it might be Fernando Alonso trying to get those elbows out. So I'm going to pick Fernando Alonso second. I'm going to go with a safe pick with Checo in third. I'm going to go with Lewis Hamilton in fourth. I know not the best showing in Miami last week. I always say I'm a huge fan of Lewis, so I always track what he does over the weekend. He kind of got, I don't want to say screwed, but he kind of got put into a position where he couldn't get his tires as warm for qualifying, which that's what put him on the back foot and eliminated in Q2. So I think with a solid qualifying run, he'll be up towards the front. And I believe maybe with these upgrades, if they go in the right direction and they do what they're supposed to do, I think that we could be up there in fourth place. I'm gonna say no Ferraris in the top 5. I just think with them being hard to drive last week, I think it's gonna give them some more trouble. Leclerc was struggling mightily to last week, even having to battle a Haas car. I think that says a lot. Lewis towards the end of the race, granted different strategy, but I think as far as he started behind Carlos, he really ran him down at the end. So I don't believe that Ferrari has that car that's faster than Aston Martin or Mercedes. So no Ferraris in my top 5. I'm not going to throw George into my top 5 to make this interesting. And I believe Stroll kind of seems to always be a couple steps behind. So I have Max 1, Fernando 2, Checo 3, Lewis in 4. And I'm going to throw the Frenchman, Pierre Gasly in 5. Did a great job holding off Lewis Hamilton last year in the AlphaTauri. The Alpine has been seen to have a little bit of pace. And like I said, with this track being the way it is, if he gets decent track position, I believe that he can hold it. I believe he's talented. So I'm going to throw a little razzle-dazzle. I might be the first time I'm throwing the Alpine in my top 5 this year. I don't think I've thrown Ocon in there. I don't think Ocon will be far behind. It's almost a coin flip between who I want to throw into 5th place from Alpine, if it's Gasly or Ocon. But I'm going to throw Pierre Gasly into 5th place. So those are my picks. Hopefully we'll get Alex's picks. And then when we review next week, we'll go over all of that. Before we move on, for you gambling degenerates that are out there, we're going to go over the odds, the DraftKings odds. For you guys listening, I'll make sure to say them all. So right now, we have Max Verstappen, shocker, as the favorite. Minus 250 are his odds, all right? So he is favorited to win the race. Sergio is in second, 330. Fernando Alonso is in fourth with plus 1,200. Lewis is plus 1,800. George is plus 2,200. Charles is plus 2,200. Carlos is plus 3,500. Lance is plus 10,000. Then here we go. Valtteri, Pierre, Lando, Kevin, Esteban are all plus 50,000. Nico, Yuki, Oscar, Nick, Logan, Joe Guan Yu, and Alexander Ambon are all plus 90,000. Betting on this sport is kind of interesting. Max Verstappen is the only one favorited to win this race. If you threw a couple bucks on some of these guys, Fernando, Lewis, Sergio, you wouldn't have to throw much to make a good amount of money, to make some cash. Obviously odds are, you got one driver, only one driver can win out of 20. So, let your odds be what they are there. But I find it interesting. The Max to Sergio thing, I find that completely, that's normal. I mean, Max is just Max. Red Bull, it is what it is. He's supposed to be top. You have Fernando in third at plus 1,200. And then they have his teammate down at plus 10,000 in the same car. That is, I can't even say it's disrespect, because Lance has not been living up to his expectation that he's supposed to be doing with that car. So if I was him, I'd take that personal. If my teammate is plus 1,200 and I'm plus 10,000, that is the odds maker saying that they believe there's no shot. And honestly, Lance hasn't proven them otherwise. So you got the Lewis to George is plus 1,800 to plus 2,200. A little bit of a shocker that they are not the same, especially because if you really follow Mercedes, their practice times are so close, their qualifying times are so close. I believe Lewis had the upper hand at Australia. You go to last week at Miami, George Russell has the upper hand and finishes ahead. So I would expect those odds to be on the same page. I think they give Lewis Hamilton respect because he's the 8-time and 7-time champion. And then the other difference, again, Charles Leclerc is plus 2,200 to Carlos is plus 3,500. Two drivers, same equipment, usually around the same place or not too far off, but Charles does seem to have that leg up on Carlos, and the odds are showing that as well. Pretty standard. Valtteri is plus 50,000 to Joe Guan Yu's plus 90,000. That's nothing to take personal. Pierre, Lando, Kevin, Ocon, they all the 50,000. I guess Lando to Oscar, plus 50,000 and plus 90,000 is a little bit of a gap, but I don't see any problem in that because Lando has been, proven in the past to get stuff out of that McLaren. So those are the DraftKings odds for this weekend. We will be back next weekend reviewing this for sure. One exciting thing before I move on to all things racing is that we were on Spotify as of last night. Took a little while, wanted to test out some things. So we are on Spotify. We will continue to upload these episodes, obviously live on here on YouTube, but they will also be making their way to Spotify. So we can't wait to hear from new people. If you're listening on Spotify, make sure to give a follow. YouTube, hit that like or subscribe button. So that's pretty much all things Formula One at the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, better known as Imola for us people who can't roll any R's, and pretty much got no flair to anything that we say. So Imola this weekend, very exciting. It's exciting when the upgrades start rolling out. We start to see some true colors of what's going on. And like I said, later on down the road, Red Bull's going to lose wind tunnel time, so maybe these teams catch up down the road. This is kind of a marathon. It's not a sprint, even though Red Bull is making it look like they are on the 25th mile of the marathon while everyone else is back at mile 2. So we will see what happens. But yes, back next Monday, 5:30 with Alex to talk about that. But now I'm going to transition into all things racing here. If it is your first time at the end of the show, take any questions that are had through our YouTube channel, but also discuss any racing that I watched, the motorsports that I feel that are important to me that I like. I always keep up to date with pretty much the World of Outlaws series that's going on, AMA Supercross right now in NASCAR, at least the Cup series, and sometimes I'm able to check on those other series. So we had an interesting week this week we'll start with Supercross this week. It was the East-West showdown for the 250 series with both championships being locked up. Jet Lawrence locking up the championship on the West Coast, and then his brother Hunter Lawrence locking up the championship on the East Coast. It was an interesting race. I think everyone was looking to see the two brothers go at it. Unfortunately, they did not have the chance to go at it. One of the Lawrence brothers gets caught up in the first couple laps, and he himself is already locked up to championship and is moving to 450 next season. When this outdoor season starts. So I think his mind was already past it. So there wasn't that big battle. And this track was dealing with a lot of rain. It was kind of a one lane track to begin with. So it wasn't much passing going on. The 250 race was kind of quiet. I have the results in front of me. We have Jet Lawrence first, RJ Hampshire with a strong finish in second, Levi Kitchen third, Joe Shimoda fourth, Jordan Smith fifth, Hunter Lawrence in sixth. He is who got caught up in the beginning. Max Ansey seventh. Hayden Deegan struggled in the first couple laps, was following Hunter through. Good comeback for him. Eighth. Mitchell Oldenburg ninth, and then Carson Mumford 10th. So that was the finish of the race. The East standings I have in front of me here, we had Hunter Lawrence finishing first, Hayden Deegan second, Max Ansey third. So Hayden Deegan ended with 183 points in second. Max Ansey with 182 points in second. I believe he got passed by Hunter Lawrence on the last lap to lose those points and to knock him down to third. So it's always tough to see the points battle get shaken up on the last lap, depending on who you're rooting for. I'm pretty neutral when it comes to the 250 series. I like to keep it that way. I try to stay neutral in the 450 series, but I grabbed a favorite rider, early on. So it's nice. I just kind of sit back and enjoy this 250 season. So I believe it's in 2 weeks. They are taking it outdoors and can't wait to watch for that. I shouldn't say. I don't know if the 250s go outdoors. If I'm going to be completely honest, I watched a lot of Supercross with my dad back in the day when he would have it on. I went through a big drought where I spent a lot of years not watching it, and now I'm getting back into it, understanding it a little bit more. So I do not know if the 250s are going outdoors. I feel like they do, but I don't want to be quoted wrong on that. 450s this week. It was the who can survive to the last race of the season, basically. We have Adam Plessinger was missing some past races. He came back this weekend. Cooper Webb was out, though. Justin Barcia out. Eli Tomac out. That was the biggest one last week, losing that championship. And Justin Anderson out. So pretty small top-tier field to start the race. Chase Sexton pretty much grabs the points championship. Eli Tomac's team, very classy, took the red plate off the number one when they had it sitting in the work area to kind of show that respect to Chase. Also, Chase's team last week, even though they know they won the championship after that race, because it was Eli getting injured and it was Eli's hometown, they didn't celebrate that much, try to throw it in the face. So a lot of respect going on there. Cool things to see from competitors who have been racing hard all year. So top tier drivers, not that many this week. Start the main event. You got Chase Sexton looking fast, Ken Roczen looking fast, Plessinger looking fast. Heat rapes Plessinger, loses it going into a turn, takes out the camera. Pretty funny. Takes the long way to get back on. Passes, I believe, for 9th place in the last lap to not have to go into the LCQ. AP always making things interesting on that KTM for sure. But it was kind of like, is this going to be a Chase Sexton, a Ken Roczen, probably going to be 1-2 battling it out. First lap of the race, Ken Roczen's bike kind of gets away from him. He sticks out his leg to try to save himself. Hyperextends his knee. You see him going slow around the track. He stops and talks to his mechanic. Ends up driving the bike back to his trailer. Post interview, come to find out that he knew where he was on points and that he had a chance to beat Cooper Webb in points, and that he was going to try to ride with the bummed up knee, just kind of try to, flow it out there, see if there was any other DNFs, just try to get by. But he hyperextended that knee. He's never had any knee issues, so he wasn't quite sure what it felt like. So he took the bike back to the trailer. So another rider down. So hard to see. Chase Sexton kind of just cruised out front, just added another win to his total. That's 6 on the season, and claimed that championship, which was exciting for him. They were talking in the booth, and I so agree with Ricky and JS7 in the booth. My guy, I love hearing JS7 when he's commentating on those races. That there should not be an asterisk next to this, and I truly believe it. As sad it was, as this championship was, to see all these riders go out and Eli Tomac get injured, you still need to be in it to win it. There's plenty of riders here who, just because Eli went out last week, he still could have potentially won the points. I don't know all their rules. But he could still, because he had such a lead on some of these guys. But Chase Sexton kept fighting. I believe they were almost going to give up kind of R&D on this bike and start focusing on the outdoor bike. But they kept in it, and they said they were going to keep in it until they were eliminated mathematically. And he's now your champion because they kept in it. So an impressive season for Chase Sexton. He wins the event. 6 wins on the season for him. 7 wins on the season for Eli Tomac in second. Cooper Webb is in 3rd place on the season, with Ken Roczen tying him for points in 4th. But Cooper has more wins, and that's why Ken was looking to stay out there to try to claim that 3rd place for himself. And then you have Justin Barsha finishing 5th on the season. Justin Anderson finishing 6th, AP finishing 7th, and then Justin Hill 8th, Adamson, and Sorello in 9th, and then Dean Wilson in 10th. The results for the race: Chase Sexton takes off, AP kind of makes his way to 2nd, settles there. Justin Hill, though, on his KTM, not factory, I'm almost positive, don't quote me on it, but finishes 3rd. I believe it was his first podium. It was amazing to see. Adam Ciancarello, strong 4th place finish. Dean Wilson, 5th. So that's your Supercross. I believe 2 weeks off, and then they're headed for the outdoor season. And now, like I said, I used to watch it back in the day. I believe me and my dad would only pretty much watch the Supercross stuff, so the indoors, like where they're at now. So I've never actually watched the outdoor season at all, or at least that I can remember. I've watched some JS7 highlights because I was just like watching highlights of his races because he's so fast. So that's really the only exposure I have to the outdoor Supercross stuff. So I'm excited. So if you got anything, comments that you want to leave, any news, any knowledge for me, I'd be more than happy to learn on this Supercross journey and talk to you guys about it. But we'll transition to more dirt racing. As you know, we always discuss World of Outlaws here. As you can see, I got my new Big Game Motorsports #2 David Gravel team shirt on that my dad got me. I appreciate you, Dad. Thank you very much, so we can be rolling in style when we go out to Knoxville. But we had 2 races Wednesday. If you don't know about World of Outlaws, 89 races, man, races during the week, so you're always got something in to watch. I appreciate the drivers and the teams, because this is not easy. They're away from their families for so much, but they provide us with so much entertainment. You got to show them love. So they had a race. They were in a little Pennsylvania week here, so they had a race on Wednesday at Lincoln. And if you're new to sprint cars, the Pennsylvania drivers, there's a lot of tracks, a lot of history. They're called the PA Posse. All right, so they race usually weekly at tracks like Williams Grove, Lincoln, Sealands Grove, Port Royal, so many of those tracks. And then when the World of Outlaws come, they make it kind of like a World of Outlaws versus Posse thing. And the guys take a lot of pride in who wins that deal. But getting the win at Lincoln on Wednesday was Anthony Macri from 4th to 1st. Last lap pass on other PA Posse driver Brent Marks. Our guy David Gravel finishes 3rd. Danny Dietrich 4th, Brad Sweet 5th, Spencer Basin 6th, Chad Trout up in 7th, Justin Peck 8th, Hot Sauce Giovanni Celsi in 9th, and then Brandon Raymer in 10th. So that was Wednesday. Supposed to be a doubleheader Friday and Saturday at the Grove. Very historic speedway, historic catwalk that goes over the track. It's cool to see the cars go underneath of that. If you haven't checked out my guy David Gravel's Instagram, there's an amazing video of that car coming down the backstretch at full speed and then just sending it into the corner. Oof, it doesn't get prettier than that. So make sure you guys go check out his social media because that clip is amazing. I think it's a good clip. It's a one car turning into a corner but I really think it goes to show just how badass those World of Outlaw cars are. Race on Saturday night, though, at the Grove. Brad Sweet comes out your winner. So Posse gets the win on Wednesday. Outlaws get the win on Saturday. Brent Marks second. Those are two strong second place finishes for him. Donnie Schatz from 6th to 3rd. Rico in 4th. Anthony Macri, following his win on Wednesday, finishes 5th. David Gravel finishes 6th. Lance Sweet 7th. Justin Peck 8th. Carson Macedo 9th. And then Logan Schuchart rounds out your top 10. So those are your results. If you're looking at the points after that, Brad Sweet's in first. David Gravel sitting in second with 36 points behind. Couple incidents. I believe we're going to catch a hot streak, though. We're not letting Sweet get away with this one easy. Carson Macedo doing great this year, finishing third in points. Logan Schuchart's 4th in points. Sheldon 5th. Donnie 6th. Spencer 7th. Hot Sauce Gio 8th. Brocken 9th. And then Jacob Allen in 10th. So that was our Supercross. That was our World of Outlaws. And then we get to talk about Darlington Throwback Paint Scheme Weekend. I am a huge fan of this. I love everyone paying tribute across all 3 series. It's interesting. And winner in a Throwback Jeff Gordon paint scheme is William Byron. 2nd, Kevin Harvick. 3rd, Chase Elliott. 4th, Brad Keselowski. 5th, Bubba Wallace. 6th, Harrison Burton. That's a big finish for them. 7th, Kyle Busch. 8, Justin Haley. 9th, Ryan Blaney. And 10, Chris Buescher. So I truly, I'm sure if you don't know, Mike Joy and Clint Boyer were in the booth. Each stage during the race, they brought in a different NASCAR superstar. I know they brought back Carl Edwards. It was like his first time doing anything NASCAR related since 2016. It was cool. They had the King in there, Richard Petty, and his son Kyle Petty was with them. But in the last stage, they had Bill Elliott in the booth. Chase Elliott rocking his throwback 9 red color scheme with the same numbers too. Chase Elliott, like I said, finishes 3rd. Bill Elliott's in the booth. I'm sure Clint Boyer and Mike Joy are not allowed to really have favorites as they're the commentators on TV. But how cool would it have been? I bet you the booth would have went crazy if Chase Elliott wins the race with the throwback scheme, with his dad in the booth. I was so kind of hoping for it at the end. We'll talk about the ending real quick. But on that last restart, I said, this will be so cool if these guys get tangled up and Chase Elliott gets that win. But he ends up bringing it home 3rd. And like I said, me raised as a Gordon fan, loved seeing William Byron with the throwback paint scheme, putting it in victory lane. Jeff was there. Rick was there. It was their first win there in some years. They've had a bunch of race wins since they've won last at that track. So that was great for them. A couple restarts, people getting aggressive. Ross Chastain on outside of Kyle Larson with then the second to last restart. Ross gets a good jump. Kyle kind of lays a fender on him going into the corner, try to slow him up. They kind of get up in, this would be 3 restarts, to the 3rd restart to go. They kind of get into the wall a little bit, and then they get away fine. Martin Truex ends up kind of getting into Joey Logano. Caution comes out. They say Chastain is ahead. So Chastain now at the bottom. Kyle Larson on the high side. They get the green. They go into 1. Chastain just overdrives it in there a little bit too hard. They were really kind of physical, elbows out, rub and race in there in the front. Chastain, though, overdrove it. Kind of puts Kyle in the wall. And when you kind of put a driver in the wall in the front of your car is, if his left front is at your right rear, it's going to send you straight into the wall. So sent Ross into the wall. Kyle, I think, purposely kind of pushed him like a little bit down the backstretch. I got a good chuckle out of that. Kyle was able to finish the race, I believe, on the lead lap. Ross wasn't. So if you're a Ross Chastain fan, you're upset. But if you know all the shenanigans that Ross has been getting into, don't forget there was a fight last week with Noah Gragson where he actually was on the better end. But Ross is not making too many friends out there. But with that last restart, Byron, Harvick side by side, nice clean restart, and Byron wins that. So it's pretty exciting. They got the All-Star race at Wilkesboro Speedway. It is a throwback track. Speaking out of character here, without facts, I believe like Dale Earnhardt Jr. is the one like helping bring this track back for this All-Star race. It's on a short track, so it's going to be a really cool All-Star race next week. So you're going to want to make sure you tune into that for sure. The Xfinity Series, Kyle Larson first, Justin Allgaier second, Cole Custer third, Hill fourth, Nemechek fifth, Carson Husavar sixth, Josh Berry seventh, Mayer eighth, Growlin ninth, and then Corey Heim 10th. Coming down to this one, Kyle Larson is battling door to door with John Hunter Nemechek. I think Larson kind of got into Nemechek, kind of put him in the wall going into 3, and then gets ahead, and then it kind of looks like Larson hits the wall coming up out of 4. Nemechek's kind of close, and he comes down and he wrecks John Hunter Nemechek. Larson takes the win. Larson probably my second favorite NASCAR driver after our guy Ryan Prix, who had a pretty solid finish this weekend in the Cup Series. But Larson's been racing pretty aggressive. I don't want to be the fan that's blind here and doesn't acknowledge some of the shenanigans that's going on. Kyle's been getting into it with a lot of people. You look back to Bristol with our guy Ryan, Ross Chastain this weekend. Denny and him kind of got into it Kansas last week. So Kyle's been getting into it a little bit. I know some fans were very unhappy that a Cup driver comes down and gets into an incident with Nemechek, who's racing for Xfinity Series points, I'm pretty sure. They weren't fans of that, but if you just liked watching a good race, Darlington usually always provides it right down to the end. So Kyle Larson gets that W there. And I want to say that there wasn't a lot of bad blood. I think Nemechek, I believe he was positive after the race. I don't think he was getting out talking a lot of junk. And then the Truck Series, which I did not watch, but we will go over the results. Eck is first, Friesen second, Gray third, William Byron fourth, Hocevar fifth, Caruth sixth. It looks like they had Bubba running the race in 7th, Heim 8th, Thompson 9th, and then Honeycutt 10th. So that is all things racing there. I believe there was a MotoGP race on yesterday. I did not catch that. I hope any mothers that are out there watching, I hope you guys had a great Mother's Day. My wife is experiencing her second Mother's Day yesterday, and she is the absolute greatest mom in the whole entire world. I don't believe that there's a gift, a present that is good enough for the moms out there for what they do for all of our families. So to all the mothers out there, shouts out to my wife. Thank you for holding it down. I love you so much, honey. You're the best out there. So that was this weekend in racing. All-Star race in NASCAR next weekend. Amelia Grand Prix for Formula One. No Supercross. World of Outlaws, I'm sure, racing somewhere because they're racing somewhere all the time. And that is that. I'm trying to think if they're... I should pull up the results right now because I did also watch on Saturday was the IndyCar race, which was different. I feel like they throw these random Saturday races on. To me, IndyCar is like a Sunday thing, and then they throw these random Saturday races on that throw me for a loop. Like I just turn on the television and then bang, there's a race on. I was like, oh, that's cool. Again, I took a big break watching IndyCar. My dad was always watching all these sports, and I was not really into it. So I raced growing up, but I wasn't into like watching it on television. But I'm now, like I said, I just can't get enough for racing stuff, all of it on television. So turned on Indy on Saturday. Kind of saw a good race, a lot of different strategy. Alex Palou gets first, Pato Award second, Alexander Rossi third, Christian Lundgaard fourth, and then Felix Rosenqvist fifth. I believe that put 3 of the McLarens in the top 5. I'm almost positive, if I was hearing that correct. So it was a pretty exciting race. IndyCar in the month of May is the Indianapolis 500. I believe what they do is they did that race there on Saturday. That would be the road course at Indy. Then I think there's qualifying this weekend, and the next weekend, the following weekend is Memorial Day weekend. I believe that's when the 500's on. So they're kind of in Indianapolis for the month of May, which is cool. A lot of those guys that kind of, they hang out there for the whole entire month, and there's exciting stuff going on. So be on the lookout for Indy 500 qualifying. I believe Kyle Larson's racing in it. I think we got some NASCAR guys hopping in there. So that should be awesome to watch. But as stated earlier, we're on some different socials. Like I said, we're on Spotify, we're on YouTube. Please hit that like and subscribe. Even if you're a weekly follower, just hitting that like button, at the end, it does a lot for the program. So we're going to continue to try to get better here. We're going to not be mistaken that we missed Alex today. We love having him on, so we hope that everything is good, and we can't wait to have him back for next week. So thank you for tuning in. If you like it, tell someone. If you don't like it, hit that dislike button and tell me what you want me to change. And I can't promise I'll listen, but I'll pay attention for sure. So everyone, have a blessed week. Take care, and we will see you next Monday, 5:30. Goodbye.